Hi, how are you doing? I wanted to talk a little bit about triggers and how to process them healthfully because they don't always have to be a hindrance. They can actually be positive. And one of the first things I just want to know is that they're going to happen and we really need to work through them instead of ignoring them. Just let them kind of flow. Triggers have a flow. Sometimes they come on quick, but most of the time they come on slow and they process slow. And so if you can slow down with them, you can work through them better. So when they happen, it's a sign that that's something that you need to work on or something that you need to release. Both usually work on something and then release it at the same time. And hopefully it won't resurface. I pretty much experienced that myself. If I work through a trigger, then it doesn't resurface, even if I'm dealing with something very similar, or it could possibly be the same trigger that affected me at one point. It doesn't affect me anymore if I work through it. But the best thing to do is to actually process it. So you won't even know that a trigger is coming on usually, and it just kind of find yourself. For me, it's either it brings on a really quick anxiety, and that's more of the time that I might want to like not process it and just keep on doing what I'm doing and ignore it and focus on something else when I get more of an anxious type of trigger. But when I get a more of a slow, like triggers can happen slowly. You don't even realize they're happening sometimes because they come in pieces. Depending if how many people are involved in it, and if it's not like a quick thing, like if you see a car accident, that might be more of an anxious, bring on anxiety right away kind of thing. But if it's a person, you see them coming towards you from a distance, you know that this person might trigger you for some reason, then you have time to think, okay, this person's coming, so it'll be more of like a slow coming on trigger. And I don't know what you've experienced, and everybody's experience is going to go different. Once you figure out how yours work, then you'll see them coming, and it's really beneficial too, to just understand how your triggers come and go and how they flow. And so when they start, you can actually talk yourself through them a little bit. It's kind of good to go right back to that place where the trigger happened because in your head that whatever is triggering you, if you can find that place and actually bring yourself back there visually or mentally or both, mentally and visually, and then you can process it really good. You might even talk yourself through it, or there might be something that you wish you would have said in the past that might help you release the trigger. Maybe there's something you thought of as an afterthought that you wish you would have said that you didn't get to say. Maybe you can say those things to yourself or imagine yourself saying it to the other person. That's another way to work through it. And that way, that weight of feeling like that afterthought never happened, you could actually process it in the past, bring it to the past, just as a release. I mean, you never really did. So people go to other people's graves and say the things that they wish they could have said while they were alive, but it helps to even say it at a gravesite or at wherever, a morgue or somewhere, when you release the ashes or whatever it is that you're doing to process somebody's death. But, you know, we're not perfect and there's things that people have said and we didn't get said. And that's part of life. Missing chances to say things that we shouldn't have said and we get to say them. Or appreciate things that we had while we had them, we no longer have them. See, we can't bring those things back. And so when we have a trigger, we can process it and remove it and accept it for what it was because we really can't bring anything back. And even if we were to go back to that place, it wouldn't be the same place. Always remember that. Like you can't go back to the same place that you were at a year ago or 2 years ago or even like 10 years ago. So in some ways triggers are helpful that way because if you do have guilt, that's something that you weren't able to properly process. A trigger will bring you back there and you can finish it off. You might be grateful that you actually got to relieve yourself from that experience and give yourself a better vision on it or better picture to it or just complete it in some way, releasing it. So that's basically what I want to talk about. But the most important thing to do is because it's your trigger, because it belongs to you and the experience is triggering you or bringing a wound up. Thing to do is to confirm what was happening. Tell yourself, yes, this was happening. You like walk yourself through it. Remind yourself who you were at that time, what you were doing. Like here I was working really hard at what I was trying to accomplish. And yes, there was toxicity in my life and there was hurtful things going on. And people used the took advantage of the fact that you were busy working hard at something, trying to take care of others, trying to work towards your goals, put yourself 100% into a mission, and there was a toxic person or people around you who were infiltrating that and trying to deconstruct everything that you were trying to do. And just tell yourself, you see yourself, I see you, you were working the best that you could. You didn't know the people behind that, God did to what you're trying to work on. Things didn't turn out how you hoped they turned out because it's life and these are the things that happen. There isn't everything's out of your control except what you were on a mission to do and how you went out about accomplishing it. And just accept the fact that you put your best foot forward, you did what you could. And then when somebody came in and maybe they said something or did something, or they took light of all of your ambitions and your contributions to the situation, and actually were behind your back doing things to dismantle everything you're working on, you have to understand you did what you knew at the time and that it was actually to your benefit that you didn't know that they were going behind your back, dismantling everything that you were doing because it would have put a stop to a lot of the hard work that you were doing at the time, right? So whatever that is, that trigger to remind you that while you were, working so hard at something, and it was actually uh, not working to your advantage. You were putting all this work into something that somebody was right behind your back dismantling. And so, in the end of the day, the work that you did, because of the things that they did, the actions that they took, they were actually able to make what you did turn into a trauma instead of the blessing and the accomplishment that you had hoped it would have been. And then there's other things that happen on the scene and bring up those things that happen on the scene. Like I said, play back what was said and try to say those thoughts that you might have had in your head that you didn't get to say. Look into the eyes of the people who were there, who said what they said or did what they did, and confront them. Just tell them you know what they did, you saw it, you remember, and it's not going to go unaccounted for because in the end, everything does come out, everything comes to light. I just hope that's helpful for you. It's helpful for me to just work through them as they come and process them and give yourself a pat on the back because every time you process a trauma, usually it goes away. And it's a good way to release things. And another thing about that is they come at the right time. You don't realize it at the time. You're like, why is this happening today? Why today of all days? But it's like the perfect time in your trigger. It's always the perfect time to look. God works it out that way. It was like something that you needed to release so that you could move forward completely. And it came at just the perfect time so that you could release it and process it. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for listening.